Hey YouTube, it's Mark.
And Rocky.
And we are
This Cruise Life.
We are so excited to be coming to you from the Carnival Spirit, one of our favorite classes of ships from the Carnival Corporation.
That's right, we have sailed on the Carnival Miracle and the Carnival Legend, and recently we also sailed on Costa's version of the Spirit class, the newly released Margaritaville at Sea Islander.
That is why we were so excited to get on the namesake of this class, the Carnival Spirit. But there were some surprises along the way, so stick around to find out what we loved,
what we didn't love,
and what we hated.
Let's start with the food in traditional This Cruise Life fashion. We had found some of our favorite carnival venues on board the Carnival Spirit, including Blue Iguana Cantina. I could go for one of those breakfast burritos right now. Oh.
Cruise tip, don't miss out on their breakfast. Many cruisers don't even realize it. Also on Carnival Spirit is another one of my favorites, chopsticks. That Asian cuisine, you go up and you get those noodle dishes and those egg rolls and all of the different sauces. Oh gosh, I could go for that right now.
Yes. Oh, and the Carnival Deli. Remember they had some of our favorite sandwiches, the Reuben. Oh, that's so good. And all of the other sandwiches that are available at the deli were just amazing.
But it's not just about the fast casual restaurants around the ship. You've got the main dining room as well. Now, we loved most of our dishes in the main dining room.
That's true. I did end up getting a lamb one night that I ended up sending back because it was pretty much all fat on the cut.
Ew.
Good news, I was able to swap it out for a steak, and the steak was amazing.
We sailed with our friends Sam and Brian, and one of the things that Brian shared with us is he looked forward every single night to see what surprises were going to be in the main dining room. They loved the food as much as we did.
That's so true. And for those late nights when we had a little too much fun on the ship, we knew that we could count on Pizza Pirate, one of our favorite pizza places on board a cruise ship.
It's the old school pizza on board Carnival Spirit, which we absolutely love.
Another great place to grab snacks that most people don't know about is at Alchemy.
What?
If you head over there, you can ask your servers, your bartenders, for a little tray of little goodies, and they'll bring you some peanuts and cheese and other fun things to enjoy.
Olives, subject to availability always. And last but not least, I will mention we sailed for this guy's birthday, and so over the 4th of July, they had these beautiful 4th of July cakes and pies and desserts that absolutely looked beautiful.
Right. Well, that's it for all of the included dining that we enjoyed. There's actually a few specialty dining options that we also participated in on the Carnival Spirit, including for my birthday, we went to Nobu Restaurant, the steakhouse on board the Carnival Spirit.
We are cutting into our steak and
lamb. Just check to make sure it was cooked to perfection. Oh.
I'd say the chef did fairly well on medium rare. Rocky?
Yeah. The lamb looks phenomenal.
Right. We also ate at Bonsai Sushi. And again, we introduced our friends Sam and Brian to Bonsai Sushi. And for some reason, we thought we should order the entire menu twice. We got so much food, but we loved it. And it gave us an opportunity to walk it off in the Port of Victoria. It was such a great meal. I mean, look at all of these pictures.
So much food. Well, that's everything for the food that we loved about Carnival Spirit. Let's talk about the drinks.
Oh my gosh, Rocky already mentioned Alchemy. Goodness gracious, if you see Igor on board at Alchemy, please tell him we say we're sorry. We wanted to introduce our friends to all of the drinks that they had at Alchemy. And so we spent quite a bit of time there on our cruise, and we absolutely loved it.
And one of the things that we really loved about the drinks was actually we saw one of our favorite bar managers on board, Evangeline. We've sailed with her across multiple different ships, multiple different sailings, and she is phenomenal. If you see Evangeline, please say hi to her for Mark and Rocky.
Tell her we say hello. Now, we didn't have the drinks package on this sailing, so for the rest of the drinks reviews, you're gonna have to talk to our friends Sam and Brian. Let's jump into what we loved about entertainment.
That sounds great. Starting off with the theater. What a gorgeous space. It's one of those classic 3-story theaters where no seat is a bad seat in the house, and we just really enjoyed that venue.
In fact, we recorded our full tour opening there. We said at the time it might be one of our all-time favorite Carnival designed theaters. Walk like an Egyptian.
Yeah, it was the Pharaoh's Palace.
Oh my gosh,
cool.
Beautiful.
Yep.
The ship has all sorts of classic Carnival shows. You've got 80s pop to the max on board. Yay, Hungry Like the Wolf. And it also has Getaway Island, which we've never really been a big fan of on Carnival, but now that we've become baby parrot heads from our time on Margaritaville at Sea, I will tell you, there's more Jimmy Buffett music in that show than there is on any of Margaritaville at Sea's shows, which is
so true. And we found ourselves singing along.
We had a great time with Getaway Island for the first time. So check out the shows on board. There are several that you won't want to miss while on board Spirit.
Right. And then if you head down below the theater, you've got the Versailles Lounge, and that's where they have the comedian. Now, we didn't particularly love the comedian ourselves, but everyone has a different sense of humor and different appreciation for the different comedians on board.
But what we did love
is the theater, or that space itself.
It's huge. I've said it before in our videos. There's more space in this class of ship than there is on the big Excel class ships that Carnival put out. So there's less people on the ship, more space. We love that about the Spirit class.
Right. For this sailing, we found ourselves in the Monarch room, which is actually the card room on board. Not very often that we spend a lot of time there. However, they had some fun games set up, a puzzle. We played Connect 4 a few rounds.
We had a Connect 4 challenge, y'all.
We did.
I didn't win. I didn't have fun.
It was a blast. Guess who won?
Sam. One of the other things that we count as entertainment are the diamond parties. Now, it was a smaller number of diamonds on board, so we had the old school gathering where they have heavy appetizers. The one thing I will say for this time, though, is the service was not great. We didn't get to interact with the crew, and there weren't a lot of bartenders, and so the appetizers were great, and we really love that they celebrate the diamonds, but overall, it wasn't our favorite gathering that we've had.
Well, that's it for the entertainment. Let's talk about that stateroom that we had.
You can watch the full review. We did a tour. We shared our feedback on that review. It was huge. There was more storage in this room that we've had in a very long time.
That's right. And it's the fun Spirit class artwork down the hallway. We always enjoy looking at the different art pieces as you're walking down the hall to your cabin.
Yep. The last thing I'll mention about the stateroom, and this started as a hate, but it quickly transformed into a love. The air conditioning didn't work on the first 2 days of our cruise. And so we always say it's not about what the issue is, it's how the crew responds and reacts. They took care of it, they listened to our concerns, and I will tell you, it was an icebox in that stateroom for the entire rest of the sailing. So kudos Carnival for listening and taking care of it. So that's it on the stateroom. Let's talk about the design of the Carnival Spirit.
Starting with one of our favorites, Joe Farkas is still alive and present on this ship. There's still quite a few spaces that you can go and see a lot of his touches, such as those dotty boards, the little tile accents all throughout the ship. Just some really fun spaces.
Don't forget all the statues. There are statues all over. Remember the atrium has those Tiffany-style lamps still in place?
All of those walkways had the Tiffany-style lamps. It was really beautiful.
Honestly, Spirit has some really classic Farkas touches. We loved the Pharaoh's Lounge we already mentioned. Check out all of these pictures here in this collage.
And one of the other things that a lot of people don't realize is Joe Farkas had a really big impact on that glass funnel. Such a cool way to bring in light to the atrium and the rest of the ship, and just a really neat way to showcase the steakhouse.
It also lit up Rocky's birthday when we enjoyed the steakhouse there. Also, Deck 10, speaking of design of the ship, they've added out some picnic tables on Deck 10. Didn't help a ton in the cold weather of Alaska, but it is clear that they needed them on this class because there were multiple times where we couldn't find seating. Even in some of our secret spaces that we usually find seating, it was packed. And so it's clear that they needed these tables, but they're probably better served in the Caribbean.
The Carnival Spirit also has a very large gym, which we absolutely love. Tons of equipment, free weights, as well as machinery. And did you know there is a hot tub in the gym? So cool.
No, we don't know how long that will last, if it's going to last and it's going to make it through dry dock, because Carnival has been ripping these out of the gyms to make room for more pay space. And so fingers crossed this one stays for a bit longer.
Right.
One of the things that we love about the Spirit is all of the spaces to get away from the crowds. And so on Deck 3, you've got this outer wraparound that wraps around the entire aft of the ship. We love that space. And
if you go inside, you have the jungle, which is another inside wraparound space that goes around the theater. Some really cool designs in there. You've got giraffes and other things that make it feel jungle-like. Really cool space.
It's a hidden space on these Spirit class ships that most people don't realize. Go grab a book, sit down in there, and just enjoy that space.
And lastly, the size of the casino. It was huge, but stick around for something we hated about the casino.
Okay, now we're going to rapid fire through the other things that we loved about Carnival Spirit. The boarding process, it was super fast, it was super efficient. Great job, Carnival.
And it was my birthday. Thank you so much, everyone, for the birthday wishes and gifts and decorations that were delivered to the stateroom. It made it such a memorable experience.
Now, Rocky already mentioned Evangelie, but we got to sail with multiple folks that we've sailed with in the past. Evangelie, Fatima from Guest Services. We love getting to meet our Carnival crew and sailing with them again and again.
And the accessibility of the ship, while it's not something that necessarily impacts our ability to sail, we did notice that there's a lot more ways for you to get around, a lot of doors that automatically open when you approach them, which is nice if you're carrying several glasses of lemonade.
Carnival has done a great job retrofitting these old ships to be accessible and to make navigating much easier.
Right.
That's a win.
And for those of you that like to pack light, there are laundromats available on board so you can do your own laundry. Cool there.
If you don't want to do laundry on vacation, and why would you? Send it out.
And one of the things that I loved about this was the introduction to one of my new favorite Alaska excursions, and that was the Tracy Arm Fjord and Glacier Explorer.
Just look at this. Watch this
video.
video.
So beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
So beautiful. We got to see the glacier calving. We got to go up close. We saw seals. It was just such a beautiful excursion. If you have the opportunity to enter Tracy Arm Fjord, don't miss it.
I don't think you'll be disappointed if you book this excursion. Trust me, we've had several friends book it. Our friends Sam and Brian came with us, and we all, oh, look at this picture. We all had such a great time. Now, one of the reasons why we sail Alaska every single year is because it is absolutely stunning. The Spirit with those wraparound decks lower down on deck 3, the upper area, all of those spaces where you can take in the views, absolutely amazing. And while we can't guarantee you will see wildlife on your sailing,
we saw so many whales, so many orcas, lots of sea life active while we were sailing through those fjords. It was amazing.
The most wildlife we've ever seen on a Carnival, on any cruise to Alaska.
Yes.
It was awesome. Again, your mileage may vary.
Well, that's it for what we loved about the Carnival Spirit. We had a wonderful time. Stay tuned for what we didn't love.
I know we talked in the love section about Joe Farkas and all of the classic touches on this ship, but what I will say is they've lost so much. They've kind of Frankenstein pieces and bars in, and so you'll see Farkas here, and then suddenly it's just bland design. I didn't love that at all. And you know what I really didn't love?
What's that?
I didn't love the atrium.
Oh, the atrium was not very good.
It was so dark and drab, and I compare that to Miracle or Legend or other Spirit class ships. Margaritaville at Sea Islander. Those atriums are all wide open and bright and beautiful.
Right.
I want to take a picture. I want to take my selfie in there. This atrium was just...
It lacked personality.
It was dark.
Right.
So this didn't feel to me like an old Carnival classic ship. It reminded me a little bit of the Celebrity Solstice.
Oh.
Just an old ship.
Oh, yeah. Well, and speaking of that lack of personality, all of the bars have adapted to having the same menus. Of course, Alchemy has the unique menu for them, but everywhere else you go on the ship, you could order the exact same drink. The Carnival Cosmo is right there.
It's tasty.
We don't love that. We like having that personality and having the option to go to a different bar to try something new.
Yeah. Speaking of bars, many of the bars that we went to, people just weren't very friendly. I don't know if folks were approaching the end of their contract or if it's the dark days of Alaska. I don't know what it was, but that's the first time truly across a ship where we've not felt super friendly bartenders.
Right. And speaking of not friendly, our cabin steward, we never really got a proper introduction to him. He never knew which one of us was Mark and which one was Rocky. And in fact, for my birthday, when he wrote happy birthday message on the mirror, he wrote it to both of us because he didn't know who was celebrating.
And when he would see us in the hallway, he would just wish us both a happy birthday.
It was a little strange.
We didn't have ice once during the sailing. Now, we had towels. Our bed was made.
Yep.
We had the room was serviced. So no complaints there. I mean, what we needed, we got. It was just a different Carnival experience, which we didn't love.
Right. And while we're talking about that, the room did pass the disinfectant test, which was great.
Where we wipe everything down.
We wipe everything down with a Clorox wipe. However, we did notice you saw some pretty dirty areas. The side of the closet was covered in dust. Up in the top of the cabin, there was a lot of cobwebs gathering dust up there.
The vents were filthy.
There was definitely some areas where it could have used a deeper detail cleaning.
It's one of the things that I wish Carnival would implement on all of their ships is we've seen it this past year and a half, is the level of cleanliness is just not what it used to be.
No, it's not.
And while everything was in working order, there definitely was wear and tear on the ship. Now, not to the same level as we've seen on some of the older ships of other lines, but look at the edge of this table in our stateroom.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was just all chipped. People were like, that's not a cruise ship when we posted that on Twitter. And we're like, yeah,
It was.
It actually is. And so, again, it's not as bad as some of the older ships we've been on, but you definitely are starting to notice wear and tear, which we're excited for the dry dock she's about to go into.
And it's kind of something that we've noticed is becoming a consistent issue across several Carnival ships, and that is the clocks in the stairwells. They don't tell any sort of time. We don't know what time it is because when you go up and down the stairs, the time changes by several hours and by minutes.
One says 11 a.m., another one says 7 p.m. You just never quite know what time it is.
Right. They could do something like putting a placard over the clock, similar to what we saw in Margaritaville at Sea. However, I don't think they can use 5 o'clock somewhere because that's already taken.
We now understand. We talked about this in our full review on Margaritaville at Sea. Why did they cover up all of the clocks? We now understand those Spirit class systems just don't work anymore. And speaking of Margaritaville at Sea, one of the things that we didn't love was the lack of signage on the forward decks. We didn't know which deck we were on as we were going up and down the stairs. Turns out that must be a Spirit class thing. We've never noticed this before, but Carnival Spirit was also missing the floor signage. So when we would walk down the stairs, we weren't sure which deck we were on.
So confusing.
The main pool deck, it just kind of seemed, speaking of bland and boring, it just kind of seemed boring. There was a hot tub missing that's on her sister ships. I think maybe that's why they kept the gym hot tub, because they have so few hot tubs. Everything was just busy, and it just, I don't know. It just didn't have the same personality that the other Spirit class ships have.
That's very true. And the trivia was super busy. Again, I think maybe because we were in Alaska and it was just a place to be warm, but there was rarely we could find any seating for trivia.
No, you didn't
sit. It was standing room only.
You did not sit for trivia
No.
Unless you went to the first one and you stayed through all of them. Right.
And the placement of the cornhole. This was kind of strange. You had to walk through or it was placed on a major walkway, so you really couldn't play it. Otherwise, you would get hit by beanbags. I did not love that.
Okay, so that's everything that we didn't love about Carnival Spirit. Let's jump in to wrap up what we hated. One of the things that we hated about Carnival Spirit, and you're going to be surprised by this one, was the included spa amenities inside the locker rooms. Now, this should have been an absolute slam dunk for Carnival Spirit. Should have been an absolute win in our book.
Right. That sauna in there, it never really got hot.
The steam room was warm at best. One day it was cold the rest of the cruise. The showers?
The showers. Oh, those showers.
You had two choices. You had scalding hot or ice cold. We reported it multiple times because we like to shower in the locker room because those are such bigger showers. We always share that cruise tip on this channel. They didn't work the entire 7 days we were in Alaska. We hated that about this ship.
Right.
It should have been a slam dunk.
It should have been. And the last thing that we hated about the spa on board was the lockers. 6 of them had keypads that didn't work.
Didn't work.
And then the remaining 10 were keyed. You had to physically check out a key from the spa check-in desk to be able to access it.
Which no one did. Everyone just put their stuff in the locker and, went on the trust principle until one day,
when our stuff got locked into one of those lockers and the person that was using it lost their key.
Carnival has no master key for the lockers. And so they said, you're going to have to go down to guest services to lost and found in your towels to report your stuff is lost. And I said, my stuff isn't lost. And I pressed the button on my phone. Oh, and it rang inside the locker. I said, our stuff isn't lost. It's inside that locker. We waited 45 minutes in that locker until someone finally came with a crowbar and crowbarred open the door. How on earth is there no key for those lockers?
Wild.
Or backup? Wild. That is why those lockers don't work on the Carnival Spirit, just FYI.
Something else that we hated was part of the itinerary. We had a very short time in Victoria to meet that international requirement, which we hated.
Yep.
And we had also a very short time in Ketchikan, a little 6-hour time in port, whereas in Skagway, a much smaller town, we were there for 13 hours. The math didn't make sense, and it really upset a lot of people. We hated that about the itinerary.
And we're seeing this with more and more of Carnival's itineraries. They're not the best. Now, we obviously do a lot of research going in, so we know what we're getting when we book. But I will tell you, we heard from a lot of folks on board that they didn't understand why the ports were scheduled the way they were.
Right.
Probably the biggest thing that we hated on board the Carnival Spirit was the casino. And before you think it's because we lost, that is not the case. I mean, we didn't win. We hated it because of the smell of smoke. It was one of the worst smoking casinos we've had in a long time.
It was bad.
Our friends Sam and Brian, they are big casino players. And about day 3, was it, when Sam was like, I don't even want to go down there anymore because everything just stinks like smoke. That was a miss.
Now, we think some of it, again, may have to do with the Alaska season, and no one wants to spend their time outside in those outdoor smoking areas. So instead, they came into the casino. They weren't playing. They were just in there lighting up and smoking. Yeah. We hated that.
Hated that. Speaking of, we hated the Deck 9 smoking area. Right. They brought, because it was so cold, they brought the smoking into the Lido area on Deck 9.
Yes.
And so sometimes you would walk out into Lido, and it would be the smoking section. I hated how they managed that on board.
Right. We found ourselves using the mid stairwell instead of the forward because we didn't want to walk through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's everything that we loved, what we didn't love, and what we hated about the Carnival Spirit. Rocky, what do you give this ship when you think about the rating overall?
So based on everything that we experienced on board, I'm going to give my experience of Carnival Spirit probably 3.5 ships out of 5.
Okay.
There were a lot of things that were really good, but there were a lot of areas where they could have been better. I know that the ship is scheduled to go into dry dock any moment now, so that's going to be really good news for that ship. But I didn't get to experience that, so that's why I'm sticking with 3.5.
Okay. And I loved the experience that we had. I love Alaska. I love that I got to introduce my friends Sam and Brian to this cruise life and the experience that we have. But the ship itself, I was disappointed. Now, part of that could be that we had just left her sister ship, Margaritaville at Sea Islander, that has gone through a multi-million-dollar renovation. The rooms were new, the public spaces were new, everything was new. And the Spirit just, I hate to say it because I love the old Carnival ships. You watch my Carnival Conquest review. If you think that I just don't like old ships, that's not true. This, to me, I would give maximum of 3 ships.
Okay.
Maximum of 3 ships. I was disappointed with how this ship presented itself. Would I book it again for Alaska? Absolutely. I would just go in knowing that it's going to feel a bit older, and it doesn't have that classic Carnival ship feel.
Right. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching our full review of the Carnival Spirit. We hope that you got some good information out of it. And if you agree or have some other similar experiences, drop it in the comments below.
As I mentioned, we had so much fun with our friends Sam and Brian and introducing them to how we cruise. Well, guess what? We're going to do that in a big way in 2025 when we host our first ever group cruise.
That's right. We are going to be on the Spirit class, but it's not a Carnival ship. We're going to be heading out to sea on Margaritaville at Sea Islander. Join us. All of the details are on our website. Just go right there and check it out. Let us know. Reach out. We want you to join. It's going to be awesome.
Hey, until next time, I know you're going to hit that like button.
Please subscribe to the channel.
Ring those notification bells.
And we'll see you out on the ocean.